I'm going to hit the record button now. And like other classroom sessions, we are going to share a link with you after the video gets posted. This session is going to be about 30 minutes, maybe a little bit more. We're going to allow some time for questions at the end. And again, we are recording and we will share this video later. Now, if you think of a question before the end and you have to drop out, I will have a link for you. You can email us the questions. You can, of course, reach us on Facebook, on our email, or on social media, and we will get back to you. So the point of sale, of course, probably the most important thing in shortcuts, because making appointments is one thing, but how are you able to record customer transaction details? How does the customer pay? Is it a group transaction? How do you modify the transaction? Is the customer buying any retail products? Did a staff member different from the original staff member actually perform the service? So how do you keep track of all of that in the point of sale? So we're going to learn how to do a start of day, how to handle transactions, how to handle refunds, and even how to track professional products. So the point of sale window in shortcuts. If you're new to the system or it's been a while since you've looked at it, it's divided into 3 rows, a top row, a middle row, and a bottom row. On the top row, this actually allows you to choose your customers or to search for customers. The middle row lets you see the services, edit the services that the customer received, add services, or add products. And on the bottom row, this is where you choose your payment types. How did the customer pay? Did the customer leave a tip? And of course, the end sale button or the quote button in case you just want to print a receipt. So not every salon that uses shortcuts has a start of day step that they do. This is something I would recommend, which helps you keep track of the money that you begin with every morning. So if you don't have this feature enabled, you can enable it. But if you are using it, every morning, what you do when you go to the point of sale window, on the top right corner, there's a button that says transactions. And when you go to transactions, eventually this will show you every visit, every customer that came in that day. But at the bottom of the transaction window, there's a button that says start day. So when you press start day, you're confirming with shortcuts, I still have X amount of money in the register. Or let's say it's the weekend, and on weekends, you jump from $100 in the register to $300 in the register. So on Friday morning or on Saturday morning, when you do your start of day, you can enter a new float. So shortcuts will help you keep track of the cash that's in the register. And of course, you press done. Once you press done, shortcut says, okay, you have money in the register. You're ready to start checking people out. But how do you count the money? How do you make sure that you have money in the register? So before you do a start of day, you do have the ability to open the register and just double check. From the point of sale window on the bottom right corner, you can press no sale and open cash register. Count the money, verify you still have your 100, your 200, your 300, and then perform your start of day. Now, after you do a start of day, if you have to either transfer money in or transfer money out, so you're going to adjust the float after the fact. How do you do that? You would actually return to the no sale button. And there are 2 buttons in the middle, transfer money in, transfer money out. So what they're designed for is on a particular day, if for whatever reason, every customer paid in cash and you were sitting with $800 over your usual float, and you decide maybe it's not safe for me to have this much cash in the register, so I'm going to transfer $700 out and run it over to the bank right now in the middle of the day. So you can transfer money out, tell shortcuts I'm withdrawing 700 so that when you do your end of day count, it knows you had taken money out of the register before that point. And vice versa. If you're paying tips out of your register and you're running low on cash, so you say, I'm going to run down to the bank, get an extra $100. So you do that, you then tell Shortcuts, I'm going to transfer money in at $100. And when you do your count at the end of the day, Shortcuts will remember, you added money to your float before you did your end of day. So always make sure if you're making adjustments after you perform your start of day, use your transfer money in or transfer money out options. You can also use your petty cash option to make sure that any petty cash that was taken out is accounted for. So the steps to check out a client, there's multiple ways to do it. From the appointment book screen, you can right-click on a customer and go to checkout. Or if the customer has arrived, there's a pull-down menu in the point of sale, and you can choose the customer's name there. The third way is when you're in the point of sale screen, on the top left corner, there's a button that says Clients, and you can search for any customer and choose them and then press Done, and they'll be in the point of sale. So if you have a regular customer and this person just walks in because they want to buy some products, you can go right to the point of sale, search for the client, and then check this person out. They don't have to be in the appointment book. Now, everything that I'm showing you via slide form, I am going to go through and show you in the actual Shortcuts point of sale. So once the customer is in the point of sale, they're ready to pay. So they have the employee, they have the service, they have how many products or services they're receiving and their total price. On this window, if you click the name of the employee, you can change the employee that gets credit for the service. If you click on the price, you can update the price. And if you click on the discount column, where it usually is $0, you can choose what this service or what this product is going to receive for a discount. So you have multiple ways you can modify any visit, any customer as they're checking out. And if you want to add an item, add a product to the point of sale. So you would select any blank row in the middle of the point of sale window, and you either tell Shortcuts, I'm adding a service or I'm adding a product. You can choose the employee that gets credit for this upsell, and then choose, is it a product, a service, or a sundry? Sundry includes things like gift certificates. So if you sell a gift certificate, you can choose the sundry button. Now for products or services, so you'll click one of those blank lines and you'll choose either I have a product or service that I'm going to sell. If you do not have a barcode scanner, you can press the product button and manually search for the product. And if you don't have a barcode scanner, you can actually search through your product list by pressing F3. So F3 brings up a search window that lets you type the name of the product that you're trying to sell. And that way you don't have to scroll through multiple companies and multiple lines. But of course, having a barcode scanner makes this step much faster. So once the customer's in the point of sale, once you've selected an upsell service or product, now you tell Shortcuts, how does the customer going to pay for this? So there are multiple options for payment in Shortcuts. You may not necessarily have all of these enabled. So your business can actually choose what you're going to allow. So just so you know, we have cash, and that's the little cash button. Next to that is the check button. So if your salon or spa allows checks, the red card represents debit cards. And on the following row, the little Visa card represents credit cards. Next to that is your gift card or alternate payment gift certificate, alternate payment button. And the last one, the little briefcase, is account. If you're allowing customers to put money that they owe you on account or to pay with money that they had deposited from their account. So those are the 6 potential payment types you have. Again, your business may only have 2 or 3 of these enabled, and that's because of a preference that you've set. So when it comes to splitting the payment, So if you have multiple people, a family, a wedding party comes in, and one person is going to pay for all of their visits, or I'm sorry, that's the group, this is a split payment. So in this case, if you have a customer and they're going to give you some money in cash and the rest on one of their cards, you can do that. You would press the cash button, for example, and say this customer is paying 20 in cash. And then when you choose the credit or debit card button, then you tell Shortcuts the difference is going to go on this card. And when you press End Sale, Shortcuts will split the payment. So discounts at the point of sale. So this is the part where I'm actually going to show you how all of these steps actually look like in Shortcuts. And I'm pausing it on discount because we want to make sure that you are comfortable, that your staff is comfortable when it comes to working with discounts. Because if you press the wrong button when it comes to discount, you may inadvertently give a customer discounts for services or products you didn't mean to. So I'll get out of this presentation for a moment, go into the actual Shortcuts, and we'll go through the steps. So I haven't opened my register for today. So at the bottom, I'm on the point of sale button. We're under the main button in Shortcuts. We're going to point of sale, and I'm going to no sale. I can open my register, count my money, and just verify how much is in there. After I do that, I can go to the transactions button and perform a start of day. So if I have nothing in the register, it says 0, but today I'm going to open with $100 in my float. So normally, if I just keep 100 or 200, I would put that number in here. Shortcuts will ask me, why did I adjust the float from 0 to 100? And I'm saying this is my daily float. So from now on, Shortcuts should always expect me to have $100 unless I change my daily float. So that's it. Once I start my day, I can press done. So to check somebody out, again, there's multiple ways to do that. I'm going to the appointment book, and let's say I give Megan a 10 o'clock appointment with my Shortcuts test customer. And this customer is a salon regular, and maybe they're going to get a haircut. So again, there's multiple ways to check this person out. From the appointment book screen, I can right click and go to checkout. Or if I'm in the point of sale window, I can use the pull down menu, and as long as this customer has been marked as arrived and it changes the color of the appointment, then their name will appear on my pull down menu, Shortcuts Test Client. The third way is I can press the Clients button in point of sale and choose the customer. So I'll go to the one that 99% of your day is going to be like. You're going to find your customer, right click and go to checkout. So Shortcuts puts them in the point of sale. And again, it said, Megan did a haircut. This is my price. If I click on the price, I can update the price. If I click on Megan's name, I can give credit to a different employee. If I click a blank row, this is where I can upsell a service or a product. Now, you're not limited to the 6 rows that we have here. If you click and drag down, Shortcuts will add as many rows for as many products or services as you need. So let's say we got an upsell of a service. I'll click a blank row, and Shortcuts will ask me, who should get credit for this upsell? Well, Megan did. She did the original and the second hairstyle. She upsold the service, and she also did some color. So perhaps single foil. So there, Megan gets credit for 2 services, and I'm going to update the price. This should be $30. So the reason I paused at discount is because you should know the difference between the discount column and the discount button at the bottom of the screen. They actually do two different things. Whenever you're upselling a service or a product, and I don't think I have anything in this database, you would normally, if you allowed customers to have coupons or discounts or some sort of price, you would only give them that discount on one particular service or one particular product. In that case, you're going to click on the specific item that gets the discount. So you use the column. Now, if you were to press the discount button at the bottom of the screen instead, then what Shortcuts would do is actually apply the discount to all the services or all of the products that qualified. So this is why I say you don't want to mistakenly give the customer a discount on things they weren't supposed to. So make sure your staff understands the difference between using the column and using the button. So at the bottom of the screen, point of sale. So we have cash, check. This business does not allow debit cards or account. So they only have 4 payment types. And there's a tip button as well. Now, if you had an integrated credit card with Shortcuts, so your credit card machine talks to Shortcuts, you don't necessarily press the tip button. The credit card machine will actually record, does the staff get the tip? How much is the tip? If it was multiple employees, should the tip be split evenly? So all of that is handled on the credit card machine. You never press the tip button. However, if you have Shortcuts and you do not have an integrated credit card system, then the way you would normally handle the checkout is you would tell the customer, so in this case, I tell my test customer, that'll be $50, please. So the customer swipes their credit card, perhaps they press a button on the machine or they write on the receipt how much of a tip they're going to leave the staff member. So once you get their receipt, once you see how much the tip is, that's when you would press it in Shortcuts. Press the tip button, say Megan is going to get a tip, and the customer left her a $5 tip. So once I press done, Shortcuts updates how much the customer is paying. So it says, oh, the customer paid $55. How did they pay? I'll choose the credit card button, and I'll tell Shortcuts which credit card they used, a Visa card. It's confirming 55 was the total. So after I do that, your system may or may not be set to ask the customer, would they like to book their next appointment? Mine's is. So if I ask my customer, would you like to schedule your next one? They say, yes, I'd like to be in at the end of next month. So I'll press rebook. Shortcuts brings up my calendar. On the top left corner, I can actually press the calendar button and choose the last Tuesday of next month, which is the 26th. And again with Megan at 10 o'clock. My test customer is already selected. So this is a client with an employee request, and they're getting just a haircut. Maybe they'll do some color as well. So once the customer has rebooked, your system may ask, should I give the employee credit for this rebooking? Absolutely. Megan did a good job reminding the client. Should anybody else get credit for this? Not necessarily. Do I want to go back to the point of sale? Yes, I do. So your salon, your spa, your barbershop does have the ability to set a reminder. Should the staff or should the front desk or whoever is checking out the customer remind them to make their next appointment? Should the employee that did the reminder, should they get credit so that you can track who's actually getting those rebookings? You can tell Shortcuts to disable both of those features. You do not have to use them. And, oh, pardon me, somebody has a question. Automatically added on services and products only. Oh, HST, PST, so taxes. We'll check, or I'll answer the taxes question in just a little bit. But it's a good reminder. So on the right side, so you'll notice tax is set to $0. So in this test database, I do not have taxes enabled. There is a window in shortcuts where you can tell shortcuts whether it's a service or a product, you need to add 7%, 10%, 15%, whatever it is in taxes. And when the item shows up here, it will automatically put that tax there. I will show you where to adjust that in just a little bit. So in my version of shortcuts, shortcuts will remind the customer, would you like to book your appointment? Should the staff get credit for the rebooking? Now I can close this transaction by pressing End Sale. Your particular location may be more streamlined than that. In your location, you do not have shortcuts remind the customer to make an appointment. You do not ask the customer or the staff to give credit for rebookings. It just press End Sale and that's it after the customer pays. And then it goes back to the point of sale or the appointment book. So with that done, that's the basic transaction process. A customer is in the point of sale. You can adjust some things, choose whether or not the customer is getting a discount, if the customer is paying a tip, and your version of shortcuts does not have an integrated credit card system, how to do that, and then end sale. So let's go back to the presentation. So that's why I paused at discounts. So make sure that your staff knows how to use discounts. This is being tracked by security, and just about everything in the point of sale is tracked by security. So you will know who is the employee that is doing these checkouts, who is the employee that is changing the name of the person that gets credit, changing the service, upselling services or products. So shortcuts will track all of that for you so that you don't have staff members just giving discounts to their friends and families and having no accountability. So you can also take away some of these preferences if you want. So you can set your security so that nobody on the staff can use discounts, or that in order to use discount, they have to bring over a manager and use the manager. So when it comes to paying out tips, if your business gives your staff a tip out of the register whenever the customer pays with a credit card, in the ideal situation, you would give cash to the employee right away when the register pops open. Some locations wait until the end of the day to pay out their tips. So we'll talk about how to track that as well. So grouping clients in the point of sale. So if you have multiple customers, again, I mentioned you have a family, a wedding party, a couple of friends that come in, one person is going to pay for multiple visits. The best way to do this is in the appointment book screen or in the walk-in manager. You want to arrive everybody or put them in service. And then when you go to the point of sale window, you can use the pull down menu and group multiple customers. So there is no upper limit. It can be 2 people, it can be 10 people, and then shortcuts will give you just one total that one person has to pay. Once you have a group in the point of sale, if one of those people wanted to buy an add-on service or a product, you would have to modify that group transaction because, of course, you're not selling a group a bottle of shampoo. You're selling one person in the group a bottle of shampoo. So you want to make sure that this product or this service goes into the correct history. So you do have the ability from the point of sale window to use the pull down menu and isolate one person and give them an additional service or product, and then return to the group with an updated total. So the other ways you can check out, so using the pull down menu, the same one where you group customers, if you had a client that didn't want to give you their name, didn't want to give you their number, no emails, no nothing, they said, hey, I just want a bank trim, I'm going to pay and I'm out. You don't need to know my name. Okay. If you have a customer that's very concerned about their privacy, go directly to point of sale, use the pull down menu, and just use hashtag walk-in. Shortcuts won't ask for any info. The same rule applies for retail. if you have a random customer that walks in and they just want to buy a bottle of conditioner, you can go directly to point of sale, go to the pull down menu, and choose hashtag retail. And you can give the staff member credit for that, or if no staff member recommended any product, the customer knew exactly what they wanted, you can give credit to the business instead of the employee that is checking them out. So when it comes to refunds, whether you're giving a refund on a service or a product or just part of a transaction, the customer doesn't necessarily have to have the receipt, because Shortcuts has a complete history on every service and every product that the client has gotten since they visited you. So if you need to give them a refund, perhaps they bought a bottle of conditioner and when they got home, they discovered the cap was broken. So normally you would take the bottle, just give them a new one. But in this case, unfortunately, that was the last bottle of conditioner you had. So you're going to give them cash back. So to refund them, you'll go to the point of sale window, you'll go to your clients button, and you'll search for your customer. And then once you find your customer, you go to their history, find the service or the product, because again, Shortcuts tracks everything they've ever received, and you can right click on that service or product and issue a refund. Then Shortcuts will put the customer back in the point of sale, and it'll remember, oh, this customer is not buying anything, they're returning something. So it'll actually have the item and it'll put -1. It recognizes this is a refund. When you press end sale, Shortcuts will ask you, how does the customer get their money back? Are you going to put it back on their credit card? Are you going to give them cash back or put the money on account? The second thing it wants to know is, what are you going to do with this product? So if the customer just bought the mistaken product, was getting their money back, you can put it back on the shelf, add it to inventory. But in this case, if it was a broken or a defective product, you would mark it defective and you would keep it off your shelf so that your inventory counts are accurate. So make sure if you have to do a refund that you know that you can go to any customer in the point of sale, search for the name, go to the history, and right click to apply a refund. So for the salons, the spas, the barbershops that wait until the end of the day to pay their staff their tips. So there's actually a report, and you might want to consider giving your staff permission to run this report. So if you go to Tools, Reports, under the Employee category, there's a report that's called Tips. So if you press View, by default, Shortcuts will show you all of the tips for this particular day. So after you press View, Shortcuts gives you a one-page breakdown. It'll say, these are the staff members, this is how much their tips should be. So consider this perhaps the only report that you give staff members permission to run. Again, it's under Tools, Reports, Employees, Tips, and it's a breakdown for everybody's tip that day. So you've paid out your tips, you've checked out your customers, and you're ready to close the register. So when this lesson started, we began in the point of sale button. We went to transactions and we did a start of day. So when you're ready to close out, you're going to press end of day and you're going to confirm, this is my register, this is my original float, let me start counting the cash and the credit card totals. So let's go back to the actual shortcuts. So one last little step. I mentioned that you can group customers from the pull down. You can check walk-in or retail customers from here. But something I didn't mention. Let's say you have professional products, you have back bar, and you want to make sure those get checked out. So at the end of the day, your employees finished a color tube. So you want to check those out so that you keep track of your inventory. And even if a staff member pulled a regular bottle of shampoo off the shelf to use with their customer, then you want to check that out for the staff as well. So after your staff gets their tips or you've taken their tips out of the register, you want to make sure that any retail or any back bar that was used is accounted for. So in the point of sale, before you do your end of day, you're going to need two things. You need an employee that gets credit for checking this out and a customer. So if we go to the clients button on the top left, you're not necessarily going to sell any back bar to a specific customer. But at the very top of the list, your very first client is #business. Business is the one that's being checked out. So we'll choose business and press done. So now that business is on here, I can scan in the barcodes of those particular retail items, or I can click on a blank line and search for those particular retail items. In either case, business is the employee that's doing the checkout. So remember, business is my client, business is my employee. And now I can start checking out any professional or any retail that the staff used. We would advise doing this at the end of the day, unless of course you're very busy, then at least set one day of the week. Perhaps your Friday night, that's where you scan out everything that you used for the week prior. So then once I press end sale, any items that I had added to my list here will be taken out of inventory, and you'll be able to track those. But in this case, I don't really have any back bar, so I'll leave it alone, and I'll just go to transactions. So I'm ready to end my day. End of day. Shortcuts confirms my float was $100. This is my register I'm about to balance. I'm ready to continue. Now I can count the individual bills and individual coins, and Shortcuts will give me a cash total on the right side. Now, if you had an integrated credit card system, your credit card totals do have the potential to automatically be populated. Otherwise, you manually have to enter it. So I remembered I had a $55 Visa and my cash total for today was $95 because I paid out a $5 tip. So if all of my receipts were correct and I entered everything into the point of sale correct, then there should be no errors on this window because Shortcuts is going to verify my totals are correct. So I'll press the next button. And this is where Shortcuts will give me a reminder. Am I absolutely sure I did not adjust my float today? So in the middle of the afternoon, did I transfer any money in or transfer any money out? If so, I get a chance to go backwards and fix it. But after this screen, if I say yes, continue, then Shortcuts will assume I only had $100 in my float when I started and I made no further adjustments. So I'll say, yes, I'm ready to continue. I know I didn't transfer any money in or out. So it's going to show me what I counted versus what the system expected me to have. And if you use the point of sale properly, everything should be accounted for. If there was a miscount or you're not quite sure on something, Shortcuts will give you the difference. And on the bottom left, you can tell Shortcuts, print me a transaction report so I can look at a breakdown of every visit, or just print me my receipts again so I can double check my receipts, double check my cash, and if I made a miscount, I can go to the previous window, fix my miscount, and then go to the next window. Now, again, with security enabled on your system, Shortcuts will actually track who was the staff member logged in during the end of day process. How many times did they go forwards and backwards, counting the money, adjusting those totals, so that you as an owner, you as a manager can look at this report and say, why did it take you 3 times to balance out at the end of the day? Is there a step you missed? Let's talk about it because it shouldn't take you that many times to do it. So if everything balances correctly, you can continue. And if something is off, whether petty cash wasn't returned or the customer left their change or you're off for any reason, whoever is performing this has to leave a comment Otherwise, shortcuts will not let you continue. But in this case, thankfully, I counted everything correctly. I can go to the next window. So on this window, shortcuts will ask me, should my float remain at $100 for tomorrow? And if that is the case, then I need to come up with $5 to enter into the register. Because if you notice on the bottom right corner, it says my net cash is negative $5. I'm under my usual $100 that I have. If I say, no, I'm not going to run to the bank tonight, $5 is not going to affect me for tomorrow. Tomorrow, I will open with $95. So I'm not making any deposits, nor do I have to run to the bank to get cash to add for tomorrow. I'll just open with $5 less. So this is where you can adjust tomorrow's float. But if it was supposed to be the same, you'll get the reminder, you need to add $5. And if you were over on your cash, then on the bottom right corner, shortcuts will remind you how much should you take out of the register so that you can make your deposit tonight. So once I press next, that's actually the last window on the end of day screen. Shortcuts will say, are you sure you don't want to make the adjustment because it's gonna ask you for $5 to fulfill the float for tomorrow? Yes, I'll remember to do that. So the last window we see is actually 3 of the most popular reports that you can run during the end of day. So the reason we have this here is in case if you have a manager or a receptionist that does the end of the day each night, you can ask them, I want you to print me a trading summary each night. This has a 1-page breakdown of every customer that came in, every service, every product, and how the clients paid. So maybe you want them to print this up along with the deposit for tonight. The session till drawer balance report is the one that shows who is the employee performing the end of day, how many times did they go forwards and backwards, making those adjustments. And the business log is the complete A to Z of everybody that used shortcuts that day, who made an appointment, who moved an appointment, who updated customer information. So if they use their security, that's all recorded in their business log. But as an owner, as a manager, you do not have to run any of these reports at the end of the day process. You can run these reports whenever you want. You have permission to do that for any day, for any time. I'll just press finish and that's it. So that's the end of my day. If I wanted to look at my reports, I would go under Tools, Reports. And for example, tips. Again, tips are under Employees. I go to my tips report and I view the tips for that day. And once I view it, shortcuts will show me my one employee that got a tip today. So there it is. So let's circle back to the question that Heather had. So what if you have a business that's supposed to have a tax on services or products? So in my test database, the one I just showed you, there were no taxes. To make sure they're configured correctly, you should go to Setup, Configuration, and on the left side of the screen, you're going to the very last button, the one that says Region. Under Region, you go to Taxes. By default, on a brand new database and shortcuts, there are no taxes. You have to tell it, is this a service tax? Is this a retail tax? How are you breaking it down? So let's say it was a service tax. I would press New. I would give it a name. I'll say this is my service tax. And I tell shortcuts, whenever I sell a service, this is the tax that applies to services. Again, I give it another description. So maybe I'll call it my HST service tax. And I'll say it's 13%. Done. Now, just because I created a tax does not mean shortcuts has automatically applied it. On the right side, I would now be able to tell shortcuts, anytime I add a new service, make sure that it has a service tax on it. I would repeat the steps if I had to create a product tax. So I'll say product tax, oops, cancel. So I'm going to choose business, create a new tax. This will be my product tax. And I'll say this only applies when I sell products. Again, I'll give it a name. This is my HST product tax, and it's also 13%. And on the right side, I'll tell shortcuts. Whenever I add a new product, make sure to apply tax to it. So I've created a service tax and I've created a product tax. Once I press done, shortcuts will then remember anytime I create something new, apply the taxes. But here's the catch. On my database, on my current shortcuts, I have services or I have products and they never had tax applied to them, not before this moment. So if I need to update and make sure that every service and every product has the correct tax applied to it, not just the new ones, I would go to my service menu under setup. I would right click business and I would tell shortcuts for all of my services under business, all of my existing services, I'm going to change my tax rate. And I'm going to tell shortcuts, everything I've created should have service tax, and any new items I create will automatically have service tax. The same thing applies to your inventory. So you would go to inventory and products, right click on business, and change your sell tax. And tell shortcuts for every existing product I have, make sure it has a product tax on there. And then anytime I add new products, shortcuts will remember to add that 13%. So now the next time I do a start of day, the next time a customer checks out, when their service goes into the point of sale, it's going to have 13% tax added to it. Now, if you have different taxes set up or you have difficulty with taxes, you can always give the help desk a call and we can walk you through correct tax configuration, because you don't want to accidentally set something and end up charging double tax for your customers. So when you're in doubt, let the help desk know. Give us a call. We'll make sure that that's set correctly. So we've done our end of day. We've checked out our professional products. We've made sure that our tips have been paid out. And again, if you were under in cash, shortcuts will remind you how much you need to add. If you were over in cash, shortcuts will let you know how much to take out of the register for your deposit. And it'll just double check to make sure nothing is underrepresented or not accounted for. So we have to leave a comment. Whoever's responsible for that, it is being tracked. You can adjust your float on the next window. And of course, we're talking about anything over the usual float will be set aside for your deposit. So we've talked about our reports. Again, you don't have to print these reports. You can run them whenever you want. So that is the point of sale in a nutshell. Now, there are more advanced things you can do in the point of sale. We will cover them in another classroom session. We'll talk about accepting deposits, working with gift certificates, things like that. So that'll be on the next point of sale. We'll also talk about petty cash. So that'll be an advanced class. For now, you should know the basics. You know how to check people in, check people out, how to do a start of day and end of day, and even how to issue a refund. So this will, of course, be added to our webinar library. And if you follow our YouTube channel, all of our classroom sessions do get uploaded to YouTube as well as get posted on the main Shortcuts webpage. So you can watch our old library on our webinar page. And we open the floor up for questions. So does anybody have any questions? I think I covered Heather's question in the middle of that, or regarding taxes. So I'll give everybody a chance to finish writing down their notes and post a question. And Mon, if you're paying attention, we're going to cover a lot of the same material on this afternoon's training session. So we can do some more advanced things when we talk a little bit later today. YouTube channel, please repost links to webinars. Jasmine, after today's classroom session, we will be emailing everybody a link to this session and YouTube channel address. Oh, okay. That's an easy one. So if you go to YouTube and you just do a search for Shortcuts USA, all one word, no spaces, Shortcuts USA, it'll take you to our YouTube channel. And if you just click on videos, it'll be a complete library of every classroom session we've done, every webinar we've done, every mini education session we've done. So it's all on that class. Again, that's Shortcuts USA when you search on YouTube. And I'll, for Jasmine, I will ask our web manager if they can make sure to just double check and update the links for those webinars if they're not already on our page. Okay. Are there it depends on how busy our team is. I'm going to start converting, and this question goes for Heather. When are we going to post the links for today's classroom session? Usually we have it in a couple of hours from now. It depends on how busy our web team is, because they have to build a web page and then put the video around there. But as soon as it's ready, I will send the link out. It's usually the same afternoon. Subject, please. Oh, the subject for the email, the second webinar, the next webinar that we're doing, I believe it's going to involve what the business strategy should be for opening after the restrictions get lifted. So the COVID-19 preparedness webinar. But we will announce the advanced class for point of sale advance. Today's email, it should mention this is the point of sale basics classroom session. So if you just want to double check your emails later today, that's what you're looking for. Point of sale basics. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions regarding what we covered today or something else that might have come up? So if you think of anything after the fact, and of course, if you're watching this video later today because you had to step out or you didn't get a chance to join us live, you can always reach out to the education team. So here's our email, here's our contact. You can also reach out to customer care or the help desk. We're always here for you. And even if you reach out on social media, so if you ask us a question on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, one of us is always checking those pages. So go ahead and reach out to us and we will get back to you. And of course, if you have any topics for future presentations that we haven't already planned, let us know. So thank you all for attending. I hope you learned something new today, and I look forward to seeing you on the next classroom session. So have a great day, everybody.